Here on Something to Talk About today, we're going to talk to a couple of ladies who have pretty much dedicated their lives to the practice, and it's generations old practice of breastfeeding. We are celebrating Breastfeeding Month on Guam, and that's the topic of conversation. I say grab a glass of milk and join us for a conversation about susu milk. We'll be right back. Welcome to Kings and welcome to Something to Talk About. I'm Patty Arroyo. It's nice to have you here with us in our King's home in Tamuning. My girl over here, Janelle, was really wanting French fries, so I'm real happy she got this. That's different than our regular repertoire. So she's a young thing that looks very fit, so I'm sure that we're all going to try and sneak one in. I'm with June Perez as well. We're talking about Breastfeeding Month, right? It's Breastfeeding Month. This is a topic that every woman knows about and has known about for generations, but it's also a topic in the last several years that has become, I think, ridiculously controversial, unnecessarily controversial. And it's mostly because of the attitudes of people who don't kind of separate the sexuality of a woman and a woman's natural ability to nurture and to feed, right?
That's
is that
true.
kind of where it is?
Patty, that is so true. We have over-sexualized breasts that we've forgotten that breasts are for breastfeeding.
It's a source of nourishment. I mean,
breasts were designed
clearly,
by nature to feed our children, to nourish our young. But we've the past few generations have been formalized away from that, with the infant formula coming out and being marketed so well. But now we're trying to get back to the basics.
You know what's really interesting?
Breastfeeding is best.
What's really interesting is it's almost like this topic comes in several circles. It circulates in different parts of history of women.
Yes.
Wet nurses. There was a time when women dare not breastfeed their own children, but they were nursed. And back in the days of slavery, babies were nursed by
mothers.
Yeah, by the help.
Yeah.
So what was the evolution then? I mean, clearly we started off women breastfeeding their own babies, and then it graduated into all of these different social weird
status.
Yeah. So Janelle is also a midwife at Sagwa Manyagu, thus the shirt. And are you
I am
a lactose coach?
A certified lactation counselor.
Lactation coach. Sorry about that.
or booby whisperer, I like to call it sometimes. Booby baby whisperer.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, I've been certified since 2012, so 5 years. I do have a lot of experience helping women breastfeed. I don't have any children of my own, but I can't wait for that opportunity to breastfeed.
You'd be great.
But it's true, like, when formula was introduced, it's like, okay, I can buy that and have somebody else do the breastfeeding work for me, and be an independent mother. Maybe working
and formula was looked at as status.
It was because it was expensive, and it was
It was the Gucci bag.
It was the bottled water.
Yeah, it was the bottled water.
Yeah.
And it was looked at as a sign of coming around to really having the good life.
Yeah, sure.
And we now need
Here's
to...
your acai.
Oh, wow.
That looks really
great.
good.
Acai in the house.
Nice presentation.
Acai. We love acai.
Okay, so
we need to get back to re-educating our moms and our families and our communities.
But by the same token that it became a status symbol, in that you could breastfeed your children through some fancy formula that was, like a gourmet meal for your child.
Yep.
It became so unaffordable and out of the market for many women that you had no other choice but then to come back to breastfeeding. That was also a movement because they were finding out the stuff about the formula.
The formula and just it's just a whole evolution of mother and babies and how we are to grow as a society, Patty. And you know, we've had our breastfeeding action team now on Guam. We re-energize every few months, every few years. But for the longest time, I've been with the hospital. Since I've been with the hospital, we've always had a breastfeeding advocacy group. And they have always worked with the moms. And this time around, we have the Sago Manyagu Birthing Center. We have GMH. We have the Guam Regional Medical Center. We have Naval Hospital, the University of Guam, GCC, La Leche League. We have all the breastfeeding leaders, advocates, and moms coming together, really making this a priority as best we can, and reaching the moms where and when we can reach them. So, because breastfeeding, Patty, is a skill that needs to be learned. We naturally make milk, and our breasts are there to feed our babies, but the proper way to breastfeed does not come naturally. You don't just put the baby on your breast and everything flows, like I was telling you.
Not for everybody. Sometimes that happens.
That's a lot
of skill that needs to be learned.
Yeah, but some part of it is also really psychological.
Right.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's a bodily function, and with a lot of bodily functions, it can be overtaken by someone's emotion, and then that function is a little more difficult to do. So a lot of it is coming from the head, and I think you probably know this better.
Yeah, I think women just need the reassurance and the support from their families or their friends, or like you said, with the media that has such a powerful influence on moms. And if they're ashamed of their bodies, or, you know, and over time with the sexualization of breast, if they're, you know, don't feel comfortable and confident in their, you know, like motherly design to actually nurture their babies through breastfeeding, then they're going to just skip that whole part and go to the formula. Or but really, like, when I've worked with a lot of moms, the main thing that, you know, what I do for them is just tell them that they are doing everything right. Like, this is normal. It's gonna hurt for the first few days.
I will say, in that vein, there is nothing like that. I just,
like
you know,
pain of breastfeeding.
I just think the thought of it,
Painful.
in the first 3 weeks, it's like rubbing your skin several times a day,
Raw.
like
You
this,
do get raw.
and in a very sensitive area. So,
painful.
you know, I remember having heart palpitations. As soon as you hear the baby cry, it would trigger like,
Anxiety,
I knew it was going to come.
pain.
There was a lot of anxiety, but you know, once you get past that point, and you really do have, it's mind really
Right.
over matter in that
Right,
case.
right. And
That, I think that might be the hardest part for women in the early
Right, it's
stages.
true.
Right?
Yeah, and there's a fine line of like breastfeeding pain that's normal and breastfeeding pain that can be adjusted by you know, fixing the latch of the baby.
Yeah.
And so that's where hands-on, you know, person-to-person support is beneficial and
They always say
important
that-
for the success of breastfeeding.
They always say, I mean, I have heard, which is why I did it with my last son, was from birth to breast was like the best. You know, I mean, you immediately put the
Skin
baby
to
to
skin,
breast.
right
and
away,
that is
uninterrupted.
That's a standard.
That is the standard of care now in all hospitals. That golden hour.
Yes.
As soon as that baby is out, they need to bring that baby to the mother's breast. Give that skin to skin contact. Give that eye to eye contact. Give the mother and baby time to bond. So it's called the golden hour. So that first hour of birth is so critical. And so GMH and a lot of the hospitals now are going out of their way to try to eliminate all the barriers from making that golden hour happen.
Yeah. I like it when the family, they're like, oh, how much does the baby weigh? And, you know, the baby's just born, been a couple minutes on the mom's chest. They're like, well, you know,
Give it a
the
second.
baby's still there,
Yeah,
still
give it a
attached, trying to breastfeed.
And so what I want to do after this, after the break, I want to talk a little bit about the family support. What kind of family support, you know, what logically and realistically can you ask your family to do? And this is really directed at the partners of women, husbands, fathers of women, their families, even younger
Aunties.
kids, aunties, however
Sisters,
old.
yeah.
However old, and what children can do to support their mothers inside the home when it comes to breastfeeding. That's all ahead. We're something to talk about with Janelle Martinez and our friend June Paris from GMH. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us here at King's. We are with June Paris from Guam Memorial Hospital. She's a sort of a breastfeeding advocate.
Susu baby. all
Susu
the
baby.
way.
She was one herself. And then Janelle Martinez. Did
I'm
you
also a
breastfeed?
Susu baby.
Okay, so you grew. You mentioned something. I'm not sure whether the audience was able to catch it, but you did mention something about running home from school to go home and breastfeed.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
And
now
that-
there's a cutoff point now, June, right? I mean, that people sort of frown at kids who are, after they get teeth
that's
or what?
where the controversy is.
Yeah.
A lot of people are not comfortable.
What grade were you in? First of all, what grade were you in?
Second grade.
I don't remember running home from school to breastfeed, Patty, but my aunties and uncles and older cousins always tell me, you're on that susu forever, girl. You never let it go. And so it was a natural thing, to grow up to breastfeed my 3 babies because mommy did it, I did it. So family support is so important. And for those of us that had mothers and grandmothers and aunties that breastfeed, those women and fathers and uncles need to step up and really encourage our millennial moms now that this is important. We survived by breastfeeding. Your baby will do even better if you breastfeed them now. And so the family support is important. And for those that didn't come from breastfed families, education is really the key. They need to understand that breastfeeding gives so much more than infant formula can ever do. The immunization, the immunity protection, the antibodies,
Just the natural properties that are of it,
the natural protection that comes with breast milk can never be replicated in
Not
formula.
substituted.
Formula cannot come close with the nutritional value that breast milk gives, and the psychological time and bonding that breastfeeding does, and the protection to both mom and babies. For babies, Patty, they're given an extra boost from SIDS to obesity to allergies,
Lowers diabetes risk.
They're even intelligence tests they rate a lot higher.
Okay, Janelle, let me ask you, because you are you a millennial? Are you in your 20s, 30s?
Yes.
How you're speaking to a generation, maybe a generation older than you, in fact, and a generation is about your age group. Do you notice a difference in the attitudes between older and women who are your age?
I don't really
The attitude
notice.
of breastfeeding?
I think a lot of younger women who do have family support choose to breastfeed, and there are still a lot of women who maybe weren't Susu babies and they weren't breastfed as children that don't, because they don't have the education, they don't have the interest, and they think that their body is set up for failure, and they don't know how to breastfeed. So just going back to how important it is to have family support, whether or not you were breastfed as a child or anyone else in your family has breastfed or not breastfed, with or without experience, your body can still do it successfully. But the education piece is important, and then just the communication with your family. And you do have to educate them so that they can support you. Because you definitely need a lot of support if you're going to breastfeed successfully.
So when you're maybe in your 20s and the formula was always the way to go, is it a role of yours to try to encourage more women to latch on, if you will, to breastfeeding practices?
Yeah, because I'm such a breastfeeding advocate, that is, what I want to help women learn and understand. So of course, I'm not trying to force it on anybody, and have some shared decision making. So that's important. But without the education piece, I feel like they don't know enough about why breastfeeding is so beneficial for their babies and for themselves. So I just educate them a little bit about it.
Okay.
If they're not sure, if there's any hesitation, we just do that skin to skin bonding, and then naturally they're like, okay, let me try
Let's
this.
see if this works.
Help me out. Yeah.
But even before then, while we're trying to make the pitch, a lot of women are just worried about what happens to them physically. Can you actually prepare your breasts for that time? With those first 3 weeks, you got to toughen up the areola. You've got to be able to. There's got to be a little bit of training that goes on.
Yeah.
What would you encourage?
I think no matter, it's hard to prepare yourself for that every 2-3 hours of breastfeeding a baby. So you can do some stimulation with the nipples, but really, once you get to breastfeeding, that's going to
probably
do, the baby will do the toughening
they'll
up,
do all
so-
the toughening up.
Right.
That's the point. Also, logistically, if you could just give a few tips on how you can support your partner. I would, my thing was, if I'm going to be out and about and everybody wants to go to the party or the dinner, I don't want to be going alone to the corner. I mean, somebody can come and sit with me, and have your glass of wine. Don't leave me
Right.
over here alone.
Yeah.
That was one of them. The other one was, give me a chance to just take a shower or get something to eat or make something
care
for
of
me while
yourself.
I'm nursing
Right.
or even stay up with me in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Is-
Yeah, those are all very, beneficial. It's the little things that count.
Yeah.
And, the mothers will breastfeed. The fathers can, exactly like you said, have the meals ready or do all the chores in the house, help take care of the mother, help feed the mother, change the diapers.
I think your son, actually, I think your daughter-in-law pumped and had him take a shift in the middle of the night. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's a team effort. It's a family effort, Patty. And moms, once they really become informed and are making informed decisions about their bodies and how to best feed their babies, they'll get comfortable with breastfeeding anywhere and anytime their babies need. It is now a woman's right. The federal law, local laws have granted women, all nursing moms, the right to breastfeed anywhere,
anywhere in a place.
without any harassment, question,
Right.
discrimination.
Let me ask you this question about the La Leche League. There are some women who actually either give up, that they just really do not want to do it, but they want the benefits of breast milk. Is that what the La Leche League it's like breast milk on order? Is there a supply of breast milk?
We don't
That
have,
you
we
don't-
don't
that
have,
there
we don't have a
isn't-
milk bank on Guam.
Okay.
We don't have a milk bank on Guam. And I
I
know
came from a place where there was a milk bank, and maybe it was the 80s, but
we would
I'm
like
not sure.
to. That's a goal we would like to attain someday. But the La Leche League, Patty, is for breastfeeding, for mom and babies to breastfeed, not to have somebody else.
No, I meant
Yeah,
just a bank,
yeah.
being able to dispense milk and
Right.
use it for.
And yes, and to help to have a milk supply for moms that are having difficulty breastfeeding. They would that is to supplement and complement mom's breastfeeding, but not to replace mom's breastfeeding altogether.
There were some times we talk about modern wet nursing. I mean, there was some of that happening in the old days, but there is modern
Well,
wet
there is
nursing.
modern wet nursing or milk sharing. So there are different
milk sharing.
women who get together, take it on themselves to have a milk sharing, community. And so one mother will reach
breastfeed
out.
other babies. They
Yeah.
breastfeed their friends' babies.
Yeah.
Or they'll pump and store their milk, and they have a freezer full of milk, and it's like, here, are you having low
They
milk
share.
supply issues? And donate the milk. And then there's just like this, some kind of trust relationship. You can look at, the labs and make sure this mother is healthy, the breast milk is safe, and you can feed your baby that.
Is that popular on Guam?
On Guam, there is I'm not too sure. I don't think that.
I think that
it
there's a little
happens
bit of
lot.
more of an attitude
Right.
here about something like that.
yeah,
That
Unless
feels a
it's-
little bit too private,
Unless it's
right?
family
Yeah.
or really close friends that you've known this person for many years.
Yeah.
We need more young moms. We need more young moms to breastfeed for that kind of sharing to happen.
Do you have like a group of young mothers? Do you have you established at Sagwa maybe a group of young mothers that support each other, mothers that support each other?
There is the breastfeeding socials that Barbara Moffness hosts at
She's awesome.
Sagwa.
Yeah.
And so that happens twice a week on Tuesdays and Saturdays. And there's peer, breastfeeding socials, and then there's also one-on-one help with Barb. So if there's a lot of issues and you're not comfortable sharing that with everybody else, whether you know them or not, Barb can help out one-on-one.
Talk to me about your job as a midwife.
Yeah,
what is
I love it.
midwifery like?
No,
I
it's
mean,
great.
you're a young
I get
single
to-
gal with no children. You watch the miracle happen every day.
It is. It's beautiful. I got called. June actually just called me
In the middle of a delivery?
a couple hours ago in the middle of a birth. I was like, okay, I'm really interested. Let me just,
Finish what I'm doing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's great just witnessing the power of a mother bring life into the world.
It's awesome.
And it is awesome. Yeah, there's a lot that I get to witness and help women just like be comfortable and feel safe in the process.
How many babies have you assisted or given at
I don't
birth?
keep count.
Really?
I don't keep track, and I wish I did, but it's just another thing to do.
It's like every day.
A lot of
Is it
babies,
every
though.
day?
Every day. No, I'm almost every day. Half the week, I guess. I'm on call.
How did you get into that? Did you have to have some sort of medical training?
Yeah.
In the
yeah,
nursing
so I've
program?
been an RN, and I started my RN at GMH in labor and delivery since 2009. And I was an RN for 9 years, and then did my 2-year training master's program to be a nurse midwife. And I've been a nurse midwife since last year. Moved
Wow,
back
is
home.
it more rewarding than being an RN on the floor?
I like it just because I get to work with women throughout the prenatal care period, talk to them about breastfeeding, help them throughout the whole process.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do love helping women and delivering.
Well, you got to be up at all hours of the night, I'm sure, and all
yeah.
hours of the day. Well, we're honoring this moment of the practice of breastfeeding, and it's been done for centuries. And so, how do we mark this moment on Guam for the month? It's just really a lot of education,
a lot
and
of outreach, education, reminding moms that they have a right and their babies have a need to be breastfed, and it's the best. And it's their choice. It's a mother's choice, Patty. We just urge them to get as informed and aware and as educated on breastfeeding, the benefits of breastfeeding before they make that choice, and hopefully that it will be to breastfeed. 75% of moms, Patty, do breastfeed at birth, but eventually that number drops drastically, and it drops even more once they go back to work. So a lot of support from their families, from their healthcare providers, from the work site, their employers when they go back to work.
We had a lady in my office. She was in the office next door to me, and she shared an office with a guy, and she used to have to bring her baby in because the baby was so young, and she wasn't willing to. Some days she couldn't. She couldn't just pump and leave. So she would
At
actually
least she
bring
could
the
bring the
baby
baby
there, or
in.
she would need to pump in the middle of the day, and
Yeah.
can I use your office? She'd go in quietly, lock the door, and just sort of take that moment quietly to do that.
It's a big commitment.
It is a commitment,
It's a
but
major life-changing commitment. And Patty, we want to prepare moms that it's work. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort, and be prepared for sore nipples, bleeding nipples. But these are inconveniences that pass. They eventually go away.
they're really in the scope of things.
It goes away so fast.
In the overall picture,
Yeah.
they just really do go away.
And there's support. There's support. There's Barbara. There's Janelle.
Yeah.
There's GMH. There's WIC. I'll give you numbers before we close, please.
Well,
let me
do it
give-
now because we only have 30
the
seconds left to go.
We have Barbara Moffness at 777-6526. Barbara Moffness with Sagwa Manyagu. She's been there for decades helping our moms.
Okay.
And then also Addie at WIC at 475-0302. WIC with Addie. They provide all the breastfeeding answers and support. And just find someone you can call. Because I had to call Kathy Sinicolas at GMH. After every baby, I was still calling out for help.
Pick
Well,
up
even
the
the
phone
mo-
before you pick up the formula.
Pick up the phone. All right, there's
before
a
you
bumper
go to
sticker
formula.
somewhere.
Yeah.
We're gonna place. Hey, don't be afraid.
Call
of your,
us.
Don't be afraid of your boobs, and don't be afraid to breastfeed.
Yes.
Booby
milk-
whisperer right
Yeah.
here. Look for Janelle too. Listen, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you,
I really
Patty.
appreciate that. We can dig into the food, and we can say thank you for joining us. I hope you learned something.
Breast milk is best.
Breast
Yes,
milk is best.
it's
Have
the-
a wonderful day. We'll talk to you
Thank
later.
you.
See you.